is Becky Pearson of Pivot Point of View. I'm joined with my usual co-host, Destry Millsap, and we have a very special guest today, Deb Christy. Thank you for coming, Deb. So we wanted to talk to Deb because we love going to her races. When Destry and Jordan lived in Nebraska, they attended her races too. And we've had the opportunity to do some work with Deb lately on some of the programming, helping her out, get ready for, unfortunately, a knee replacement, but getting her knee in the best shape possible until she can go through that and giving her some pain relief. So we thought it'd be a great time to sit down and chat. And so welcome aboard, and great to have you, Deb.
Oh, thanks. It's good to share what I know, I guess.
All right. Okay, so let's first just give everybody a little bit of a background on your passion is barrel racing, riding horses. So
Yes.
give everybody a little background, like how did you grow up in horses? What got you specifically interested in barrel racing? And we'll go from there.
I've ridden all my life. I was thrown on a horse probably when I was 2 months old. My dad was rodeoing pretty hard and we were going down the road. So that's kind of how I got started. You know, we walked out our dad's horses when he got done competing, and I barrel raced on his dog and horse in a hard seat saddle with stirrups too long. I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
You know, I rode bareback most of the time. So that ended up being very good for balance and everything. And I grew up in Phillipsburg, Kansas, which is one of the biggest rodeos in the country. And I was just intrigued with the barrel racing, you know, all that fringe and stretch lame and glitter. I just loved it. I thought, I'm going to be a barrel racer. And it's all I ever wanted to be when I grew up.
Who were the big barrel racers back? Who did you look up to when?
That was Martha Josie.
Yeah.
In particular.
Yeah.
She's probably the main one that comes to mind.
Yeah. It was a great time in the barrel racing. She's still going. And
yeah, she's in her 80s and amazing.
Yeah.
But I've I've seen a lot of really fabulous barrel racers there, of course.
Yeah.
And I've competed there most of my life, actually. Yeah. Well, as soon as I got old enough. Yeah. 18, you had to be 18.
Well, and you guys help with that rodeo. You help put it on.
Yeah. My husband's on that committee, has been for quite some time, and a ground person. You know, Phillipsburg's won the Justin Boots Best Footing Award for several years, and he kind of helped implement that. And Ricky Soliday does it now because Steve just doesn't have time because he's doing other stuff at the rodeo. But that's why our ground at McCook's so fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah, he knows ground.
Yes, Steve does a great job, always prepares the ground to perfection. It is your jackpots. We all know that we can go and it'll be safe, and you don't have to worry about that. So we appreciate him.
It's funny, you know, I have a nice arena at home, and he always has the ground meticulous, which I always say, no, I need it trashed up a little bit for rodeos, you know. I grew up never caring what ground was. You just went and ran. I ran a few times on grass when I was growing up, even never thought a thing about it. And one rodeo is being 75th on the ground and slack. Who cared? And now you're, I'm 5th down on the drag. And I'm thinking, 5th, are you kidding me? That's like top of the ground. Come on, don't worry.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
But as I've gotten older, I am a little more careful about ground because I don't want to fall.
Yeah.
And I train my horses a rodeo stand-up style of running, you know, which is a little different than some futurity people train. Yeah. And depends on what you want to do.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. Like how do you teach that?
Well, I do a lot of work in the pasture even. And my horses run in a pasture, and it's a little rough, it's hilly, so they learn how to keep their feet under them, but I want them to stay squared up and go kind of deep. I don't want them leaning. I don't want them, you know, snapping back real hard. No, I want to squared up, forward motion all the time.
Kind of four-wheel drive.
Four-wheel drive. And if they do it right, it's just as fast. I'm not going to
Mhm.
argue that that snapback isn't fast,
Mhm.
but
If the ground gives,
if the
you're in
ground
trouble.
gives, you're in
Yep.
trouble. They're
Yep.
probably gonna go down
Yep.
or
For
slip,
sure.
slide, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't, I don't want injuries. I've had very, very
Mhm.
few injuries
Mhm.
ever.
Yeah.
Deb,
Um,
are your horses turned out in the pasture part of
Yep.
the year?
They
They're not.
run and they run together and they just got to figure it out. If they better get along or and they don't kick, fortunately. They bite, like my good horse that I'm competing on right now at some of these big events. He showed up at one of the big events with this big bite mark on him. He said, "What happened?" He forgot he is not in charge. And they're socialized too, so they know, okay, that mare does not want me near her. But yep, they run. And I know that's huge on conditioning too, and footing. They know where their feet are all the time.
That's
and
how
you're a gelding person, right? You prefer.
I am. I grew up on mares. We actually raced horses. So I grew up on race horses, which is how come I know about good conditioning, and we never had bleeders, and we always got rid of the geldings because Dad kept the mares, and that was fine. Our mares were treated like the stallions were. No, we don't mess with nonsense. No, you're not in heat today. Forget it. And which I kind of think should still be the way it is. Oh, she's in heat. She might kick. I said, no, don't allow that. But as I've gotten older, I don't want to mess with the mare deal. Just geldings. I just want, and you can't haul a mare with a gelding because it makes your gelding stupid.
Oh, that is no doubt.
They just go brain dead.
Like most men, sorry, Destry.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say that, Destry. Becky did.
Now I'm just taking shots. I'm a mare guy. I love mares. Party Girl's a mare, and she's a beautiful Palomino. And every time she hauls with the gelding somewhere, like I get in with one of my buddies, and it doesn't matter how awful those geldings are to anything else, they all fall in love with Party Girl. And guys are like, God, you can't keep bringing that mare. I'm like, ah, she's all I got. She's the best one. So
yeah, it is. Doesn't work for the
yeah.
most part, I think. But
Yeah.
so I my geldings.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said about having your horses turned out, I noticed that when I was growing up, we turned our horses out over the winter time, and they were all turned out in the pasture, all turned out together. I mean, you had your broodmare herd, and then you have your younger horses and some of your older horses in different pastures or whatever, but they were all turned out. And you were right. I feel like those horses stand up so much on any type of ground. And we were ranching on them. I mean, we were going Mach 90 down hills after and never once thought two things about it. I mean, they were going to stand up or they weren't. And they most
And
of
they
the time,
better watch for holes.
and exactly. And which is why I always love being on a horse over a four-wheeler, because they can see that gully and that four-wheeler can't. So anyway, yeah, I think that's kind of a deal that maybe some people don't think about, and a lot of people nowadays, you have more people that um, don't live on ranches, and they might live on 5, 10 acres that don't have that pasture land to turn their horses out, or their horses might be stalled. And I just think that the ones that are turned out and have been turned out as young horses, they just stand up so much better. It's just a different feel. I don't know how to describe it.
It is, and we're so fortunate when we have pasture and have that turnout. And I know I don't raise colts anymore, thank goodness. And I will usually try to buy them as a weanling or a yearling. And first thing I want to know, okay, where have they been? Have they been out in the pasture? If they've been in a small pen or so, I walk on. I want them to have been growing up in a pasture so they do know where their feet are.
Yeah, on our 10 acres, I mean, it's mostly flat. There's no big hills to go up and down, but they are turned out, and they get more movement that way. I feel like they kind of themselves just a little bit better conditioned somehow that way, and just as good for their minds too.
Yeah, and they keep moving just like we need to keep moving.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
I was very adamant this year so my living situation has changed, but thankfully I was able to rent a pasture for my mares and colts
Mhm.
from Gail. And yeah, I mean, those babies are able to respect the pasture, respect the fence, and learn how to handle themselves in that. So
Mhm.
and I hope to do that every year.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it does make a big difference. And,
Mhm.
we're fortunate, some people they just don't have that. And
Mhm.
I don't know how you overcome it. You just have to try to maybe go ride in a lot of different terrain.
Yeah.
Yeah, trail ride, whatever. I like to ride, so I just ride all over.
Yeah.
Well, and keep them correct too, right? I mean, teach them how to use their body and don't let them cheat, and
Mhm.
put them in those situations and season them that way, and having them use themselves correct. I think it's just, doesn't even matter where they're turned out. They still got.
Mhm.
Well, and it's interesting to watch a young horse, if depending on what age, I always I don't want really one over one, but I want to see how they move. Do they naturally switch lead? How balanced are they? Like this one colt I have now. Well, he's not really a colt anymore. He's 6, but acts like a colt. He's just such a natural athlete, and so I knew he could do it.
Mhm.
Sadly, he's coping with someone old and injured right now. But he's very kind.
Yeah.
My wife and I got a horse early when we got together, and he was 3 at the time, and we still have him. And it was when we were living up in Nebraska, and we get him home, and he hadn't been. I mean, he didn't even know how to graze. He grew up independent his whole life and whatever, just a freak athlete though. And so when I rode him, I took him ranching, and I went and gathered. They were shipping cows one day, and I show up and we get them gathered. Well, there's a couple of them that got loose when they were loading them. And they knew, who I was and knew I roped and stuff. And, hey, go get them 2 cows. And they don't know what I'm on. They think that I'm on a horse. They think I'm on just a rope horse that I've had or whatever. I'm on this 3-year-old that I've maybe swung a rope on, right? And we're out in this place, and I know there's a prairie dog town where these cows are headed, and it's in the sand hills. So we're running across these hills, and I mean, as fast as this 3-year-old would go. So what was interesting to me was he was different, and I could feel him as he ran. He was feeling the ground with his feet as he ran, and I could tell like he was opened up, but he was placing them like, oh, there, okay, yep, and just like knew where his feet were all the time, and never really had a reason to do that, but he was athletic enough and smart enough that he just wasn't like running blind. He was
Hmm.
like, paying attention to the ground and where his feet were going in that. And it's sandy, so it had a little bit of give. And we ended up catching the cow and getting it roped, and kind of like the cow was running this way, we were running this way, and I just roped him and dallied and closed my eyes, and everything came tight, and we all lived, and then we roped 3 more. So, but anyway, I think it's interesting how some of them horses will just feel out the ground too, and
Yeah, there's just natural athletes.
yeah, exactly.
Well, we bought a pasture one time that had a bunch of gopher holes in it. Just not prairie dog, but which I thought bothered me.
Mhm.
And it was amazing how fast they learned to just roll with a little bit of ground that gave. They just rolled with it and kept on moving.
Mhm.
And that stood up well when I hit the sandy pins up here in Nebraska.
Mhm.
So they get holes in them sometimes, depending on what horse ran before you. My horses never even phased them. They just kept on going
Mhm.
That's
and
awesome.
using all their body,
Mhm.
4-wheel drive. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about your Triangle Cross fraternity and your barrel racing series that you put on. How long have you been doing the winter series? Because you've been doing that longer than the fraternity, right?
right.
Mhm.
Gosh, long time,
Yeah.
maybe 18 years, a long
Mm.
time. Oh, no, I take that back. 16 years.
Okay.
Been doing it 16 years.
So what made you decide to start a winter series?
Well, when we lived in St. Francis,
Okay.
Kansas, and I had been coming to McCook as soon as that indoor was done and loved it. I mean, man, it was one of my happy places.
Mhm.
And Robin Bennett was putting on her
Okay.
barrel series, and she was done and just didn't want to do it anymore. And oh man, and Tom Kiplinger, he knew I came up quite a bit to ride. And he said, well, would you take that over and do it? And I said, oh, I don't know. Went home and talked to my husband, and I had produced before. I had done MBHA, whatever, different barrel races. So I was used to doing that. And so I took it over and started doing it. And we were lucky to have 30, which was fine because I was riding 4 horses myself at the time. And I just kept them all saddled right inside the barn, and go hop on and run.
And then announce.
I just did kind of everything and started getting more and more. And then all of a sudden I was getting 50, 75. And now it's not unusual to have over 100, even on a very cold January day. But that's how I got started. And, we like it. We have great help. All my help's been with me for at least the last 10 years. Barrel setters, announcer. Clint Millman does an excellent job of announcing and actually announces several other big events. And I just have fabulous help.
You do. Your races are always very well organized. You're very flexible, which we appreciate that. There's not a penalty if you enter and then you decide you do have to draw out. I mean, after a certain time, right?
Yeah. I try to, I'm pretty adamant on like starting on time, stuff like that. But there's flexibility. It is winter in Nebraska. So I give people, plenty of time, like the day before. After that, you're going to pay your fees, but people ought to know by then.
Yeah.
And so I know sometimes stuff happens, but I try to be fair, but consistent with how I do everything. So, and I love computer software. So that part of it's fun too for me, but that was getting a little difficult. If you're trying to ride too, and probably 10 years ago, maybe, Heather was at a rodeo and I got to visiting with her and told me she worked at the University of Kearney. I said, well, do you do computers? Do you know Excel? I didn't care if she knew barrel racing. I did not care. You can learn barrel racing. And I kind of got her started. And she's fabulous. I mean, she is very good. And she's learned the program I use and does a lot of it for people now. So she's a very valuable asset. And, Nancy Molson helps me a lot. Just a fabulous crew.
Yeah, God bless Heather Reinhardt. She is not a barrel racer, but is a huge barrel racing fan, and she's so valuable in the behind the scenes at a barrel race. She is super organized and always has a smile on her face
and very accurate.
Yes,
very accurate.
Yes.
I mean, she is. I mean, the fact that she does not ride is a huge plus for us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need all kinds really to same thing like with your barrel setters. And it's so neat because you have an older crew that are barrel setters, and then when you had a gate, your gate lady. I mean, they're wonderful and they're always so encouraging.
And they are, and they live in Indianola. And I was trying to think how I got them, but I know they've been with me for 10 years and I don't worry about them. They are there. Karen, the wife, runs it, kind of keeps them in order, and husband and a daughter, and they are there. I sometimes don't even think to remind, oh, I have a barrel race this weekend. Are you gonna be there? Nope. She'll text me. So we'll see you Saturday.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Great job. I so appreciate them.
And they keep up with they keep up with the progression of people and horses and stuff. So it's really kind of
and they're always very pleasant. Karen is so nice and so pleasant. And I'm that's a big thing for me. My help has to be that way. I don't do drama and no drama. And I want people that are pleasant and positive around. And Clint's fabulous. He's that way, and pretty much everybody is. So
Yeah.
Gives a good atmosphere.
Yeah. And so a few years ago when, so Lynn Core used to do a fraternity in McCook, and then she decided to not do it in McCook anymore. Does she do it in?
Nope, she was
Okay,
done.
she was done. And so you,
Got stuck with it.
seen a need.
Well, Tom saw the need. He
Okay.
begged me to do that. I
Okay.
didn't really want to do a fraternity because I was rodeoing hard.
Mhm.
And when my winter barrel series was over, I'm done. I'm going to go rodeo. And at the time it was in August, which kind of was a rush right before trying to qualify for finals.
Mhm.
And Lynn didn't want to, I think she did it 2 years maybe, which was hard. She's from Gillette, Wyoming.
Mhm.
And so Tom said, oh, please take it over, and
Mhm.
Steve felt the same. He said, well, we owe it to Tom to try to keep
Mhm.
a fraternity going. And
Mhm.
so I did take it over, and it's been good. I mean, it's,
Mhm. Yeah, and so you played around with different dates.
yes, I ended up
Mhm.
moving it to May because it was so hot in August. I mean,
Mhm.
we do have an older crew,
Mhm.
and it was, it's 110 in that arena sometimes
Yeah.
in August.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, I can't do that. So I moved it to May, Mother's Day weekend, and it didn't really hurt my numbers any. People are kind of getting their horses ready over the winter anyway. And it was kind of a good, sometimes first outing for a lot of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say up north here that's one of the earlier
Yeah.
fraternities then.
So it worked out really good. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy producing the winter series. It keeps me going all winter.
Mm-hmm.
And then finishing up with that fraternity. So
Yeah, because some of us, we appreciate you doing those because some of us aren't lucky enough to go south for the winter.
I know.
And so, yeah, we appreciate having a place to go. The other thing that I do appreciate about you, Deb, is if the weather is going to be questionable, that you do cancel early, because I don't know if anybody else is this way or not, but like I'm like, ooh, I don't know. The weather should I go? Should I not go? And if you cancel, then it's like, yeah, okay. That's
Yeah.
I
And
don't have to make that decision.
it does have to be pretty bad for me to cancel. Because McCook's in a funny area, and the roads might be great 3 ways in, and maybe it's just bad one way. I'm probably not going to cancel, and I feel bad if you can't make it, but most of them can.
Mhm.
If it's questionable for me to even get there, it's a no-brainer. It's no, we're not doing it. So I try to watch the general weather everywhere,
Mhm.
and if at least half of the roads are going to be bad, then I'm plus, I don't want to lose money.
Yeah.
I still have to pay the barn rent, and
Yeah.
it's not cheap. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think just the fact that you have your help with you for so long, and all of these people have grown and been coming to your races for a long time. I mean, that just speaks to how great you are to work with and what a quality event you put on. And people can definitely appreciate quality events and more than just having a place to go, even.
Mhm.
well, and I appreciate everybody who supports us. They're all great. They are very appreciative. I never feel like underappreciated, I guess. And we have great producers in Nebraska. I mean, we all kind of try to work together and not conflict. Every once in a while there'll be a conflict, and sometimes you just can't help it.
Mhm.
And we just work around it. But it's awesome to have the options
Mhm.
to, because I want to go just play
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's a good place for people to bring colts for the winter.
yes.
And get them seasoned, and yeah, it's just a nice opportunity for everybody.
What have you noticed? What have you noticed over the past 10 years, the difference in barrel racing 10 years ago and now?
Well, it's definitely tougher. I'm not going to say horses are faster. There's more fast horses.
Yeah.
But I ran my first 16 on a standard pattern 20 years ago. So, there were fast horses back then. That was on crappy rodeo ground.
Mhm.
But there are more good horses. I think people have gotten more, they go to clinics. They're always trying to improve how they ride. And train. And so I think it's tougher overall because there's so many good horses out there.
Mhm.
And breeding, we're breeding for barrel racing now.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's kind of been a trend for at least the last 20 years or more.
Yeah. I think, with everybody's access to information now, you have to get better if you want to compete, and there's really no reason for you to not get better. I mean, if you have access to the internet, you can
And I
at least
think
learn
people
some
like you
things.
help us. I mean, I think people are involved a lot more in care of your horse. I mean, we've gotten educated
Mhm.
a lot, just, when I was growing up, I know looking back now, horses that we had were difficult.
Mhm.
I'm sure they had ulcers. We didn't know that back then.
Yep.
Or, they were pretty tough too. I do think they were tougher back then.
Yeah.
And, some of us laugh about that, like we go to a jackpot, it's like, we didn't even used to throw water or hay in the trailer. We just went and they just dealt with it all day long, and they might have made 10 runs in gymkhana events, and now we worry about running twice, which I don't, but it kind of cracks me up. But I think the care from people like you who help us not only with ourselves, but our horses and, our vet care. I mean, it's not cheap keeping a barrel horse going down the road. I don't care how good it is. It probably needs help here and there,
What's your outlook on the incentive game and what it's done for?
As I'm sitting here with my Breeders' Challenge shirt on, I love the incentives. It was just something different. I've rodeoed most of my life. I love rodeos. I kind of don't really like the hauling to rodeos all the time. You go, you run, you go on down the road. But the incentives, you go and you're there for 2 or 3, 4 days. You're parked in one place and a lot of money out there. I mean, I have a young horse who wasn't ready as a 5-year-old futurity horse. So this was our Derby year. It was his first year of competition. I mean, a year ago, I could hardly trot a circle on him. He was just a little difficult. And we've just had a ball. I mean, he's done really good and won a ton of incentive money. So I love that myself personally. And I wouldn't buy a horse that wasn't in the incentives. But that's just me personally. I mean, there's a lot of good horses out there that aren't, and there's a lot of big events to go to that are not incentive driven. So it just, it depends on what you want to do. And I just wanted to do something different.
Yeah, so it's more of a directional goal type thing, buying
Yes.
incentive versus non-incentive. Because, like you said, there's a lot of nice horses out there that maybe aren't incentivized yet, the stud yet, or whatever. But definitely lots of great horses in the incentive world. So
yeah, it's just what does a person want to do? Do they want to just go rodeo or, just go to big races? Because there's a lot of big races with good money. It's just, what do you want to do? I think it's a personal goal. And my colt I bought was eligible, and that is partly why I bought him, because I knew if I had to sell him, he would bring a lot more money. And I do think the incentive horses that are already enrolled do bring more money, but it's just it's personal. What do you want to do?
right. And how have you? So we've talked about the horses and everything else and how they've grown. How have you kept yourself at the top of your game and been able to go throughout your career?
Well, most of the time you just gut it up and go. But I do believe in getting physical therapy if you need it. You've worked on me at rodeos. So I do believe in you got to take care of yourself. I mean, you take care of your horses, but you better take care of yourself. I do massages every chance I get. I have a great gal in Norton who does really good at massage. She knows what I need worked on, and I always try to get into her after I've been on a long trip. And Becky's worked on me, and I'm currently working with Becky right now. I've had bad knees since high school sports, so I've kind of dealt with that off and on. And I don't know if it was walking on a lot of cement this summer at some of those big races or what, but I finally had one knee get so sore. It was excruciating getting on. My right turn was excruciating, and it affected my runs. And I thought, okay, that's not going to work. So I'm not afraid to go get something taken care of.
Mhm.
So, and I had hip replacement surgery probably, gosh, it's probably been 5 years ago at least. And I was trying to make my finals, which I did make my finals, but oh, I paid the price. I hurt so bad. I thought I had a tight hip flexor or something. I thought, oh, and I finally went to the doctor and he just like, you don't even have a hip left. What are you talking about? So I went to the doctor that Becky used to work with, and that's where I got in touch with him. And I was back riding in 6 weeks after my hip surgery. So,
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
Yeah. And, kind of like what we had talked on the last episode or a couple episodes ago with Susan Swanson, more that anterior approach, or it was an anterior approach. So less downtime because there were less muscles cut. And because I think you were going to go somewhere else.
Yes, I was. And they were doing the posterior approach. And honestly, I didn't like him. I didn't even know there were options.
Yeah.
I didn't like him. And I remember telling my husband, I said, I don't like this guy. He's arrogant. I can't stand that. And then I think I ended up talking to you or something.
Talked at a race, I think.
And then
like, go talk to him, because like you gotta, even if they tell you it's a robotic approach, they still have to cut stuff.
Thank goodness. And I really liked it was Dr. Sextra that I went to. And yeah, and I worked hard at getting back at it. I was very goal driven to get back on my horse. And okay,
yeah,
you're gonna do it. But I have an old horse that I competed on, very broke. If he needs to stand 10 minutes for me to get on, he'll stand. And so he's the one I got back on to start kind of getting my body straight. But it was interesting. The first time I got on my competition horse, it's like, ooh, it takes you about 5 minutes, like, oh my goodness, you felt like I was on a barrel. But then you kind of get warmed up, and it never bothered me. I mean, I started competing pretty quick.
And I think you said it. It's so important to have goals and that drive to get back to where you want to be, and know that your better days are ahead of you instead of behind. So
it was one of the best things I ever did.
Yeah.
I mean, I just felt so much better. I know I rode better, and then my knees, but that happens when you get older. I think my left hip, it was 2 left turns because I barrel raced my entire life. So
yeah, and I having injuries like that, they make you appreciate what you're doing and you're riding your horses. I mean, just being able to do that stuff after you've been out and had a surgery and not being able to do it, I think it just makes you appreciate it that much more.
Oh, it does. And I've had injuries, a horse falling with me, stepped on my leg, broke it. I had another horse break my leg. Not really sure how it happened. And wrist. I mean, I've had injuries. I've had horses buck me off, and like I fractured my back. And so I've had some injuries. I had one where my leg was the broken leg. I couldn't put weight on it for like 2 months. That was excruciating. So yeah, I appreciate when everything works good. And you want to try to make sure you stay good. I mean, I'm very adamant about doing, either PT or just doing exercise and doing whatever you can to keep yourself really fit. And as you get older, I think you have to work harder at it. I mean, every year you work harder. Core, especially core.
And just to maintain where you're at.
Yes, you have to work so much harder.
Yeah, like I think when I turned 30, I was like, dang, this is harder to just stay fit. And then when I turned 40, I'm like, oh, now I got to take it up a notch. And now that I'm in the 50s.
I know. I noticed the 40s.
Yeah.
I thought, man, I'm going to have to work at this a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, now, I'm 69, and, oh my goodness, what a workout I have to do. And this horse I'm on is big, he's powerful, and I quadrupled my workout routine just to be real fit to stay with him. And, sometimes younger girls will haul with me that are like 35 or something, and they're, oh, I can't, I'm worn out. And I'm thinking, really, honey, you need to step it up.
I love that competitive nature. And I feel like as you get older too, it's important to, if something doesn't feel right, get it addressed as quickly as you can. I mean, time is
Don't
up.
be afraid to address it. I
Yeah,
think people are afraid to address it.
right. And some of us just may not even know where to turn to address it.
Yeah.
That too, and don't know, and that's why it's important to just have a team of people to help you get down the road. Your vet, your physical therapist, your doctor, all of those things, whoever does your body work for your horse. I think it all has to work together for you to be successful and go to that next level. So
Well, that's why we appreciate Becky so much. I mean, having her come to our races and know what she does. I mean, some of us didn't even know there was people out there that did that. That's huge.
Well, and I love visiting with people at a race, whether it's about themselves or their horse. And I feel like, where I go often enough, they get to know me enough that I'm not going to try to just take advantage of them and
Right.
try to make a buck. Like, I truly want people to go the right direction. If it's something I can help them with, I'm happy to help them. But if it's something that I feel like, hey, Deb, go check out this doctor, go talk to him, I think this would be a better approach for you. So hopefully people do realize that. And that's our goal with this, whether it's me or Destry, just pick our brain on some things for your health and wellness. And if we don't know it, we'll sure try to help get people.
Well, and I always encourage people to come visit with you, whether their horse or their body, because sometimes you have a different approach, which I appreciate, and fresh eyes never hurt.
I agree.
Whether it's you or your horse. And some vets get very narrow focused, and doctors can, and so it's nice to have different people to work with
and look at the whole picture, for sure.
And that's why I like your seminars you do, your solid in the saddle deals, because how we feel affects how we ride, and can really affect your horse too.
Yeah.
Because I know my one horse I was riding when my hip was bothering me so bad, it kind of got him out of kilter. He was trying to, my horses all know their first job is to take care of me.
Yeah.
That's their first job.
Amen.
And, stay under me. And it affected him. It took him a while to get rebalanced.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's all cause and, action.
Yeah. So let's see, last week we started a knee program for you, and we got you signed up with the app.
Love that.
And so let's visit a little bit about that. I mean, it's Destry's the one that got us introduced to the app, and like ease of use, like tell people your experience so far with that, if you would.
Well, I love it. When I was here for my first session, and Becky got me set up with exercises that she thought would help me the best. And then, being kind of techie, I like apps and stuff. And she told me about the app and got my exercises set up on the app. I love it. It's so easy.
Good.
I usually do my exercise in the evening, and because it takes me all day to move. Not going to happen in the morning for sure. And I, get down and pull my apps up, and I have a smartwatch, so I can set my timer on it.
Oh, good.
Which is kind of handy. And I just go, and I deleted one. She thought I should try the exercise bike a little bit. No, that is not going to happen. That hurts so bad. Okay. And my husband we have one because he uses it, and no, I just deleted it. But
she's going rogue.
But it did help. I mean, just in a week.
Good.
A lot less pain, and I can get on easier, and actually have no pain riding even. Yeah. But some of it was the kinetic taping too.
Right.
That was huge.
Yep.
And I do that to ride.
Yeah.
And that helped a lot too. So,
So our goal is to get you ready for knee surgery. You did feel really good when you left last week. And, we talked about, well, are you going to get feeling so good you're going to decide not to do knee
yeah,
surgery? But like we had talked, like if the doctor does feel like you are ready for this, it's probably a good idea to schedule it at a convenient time versus you all of a sudden get into
like I
so much
was.
pain in the middle of your season.
Yeah.
And like if we can get you ready, get your range of motion back, get your strength back before you go in for surgery, your outcomes are going to be that much better
Mhm.
after surgery. And so
Yeah.
we're basically doing a prehab type of a
Yeah.
program with you.
And that, I'm pretty motivated because I want back on my horse,
Mhm.
because if I didn't ride and compete, I don't know if I would do it or not.
Right.
Walking does not bother me. Just general riding doesn't bother me.
Mhm.
But, how long's that gonna last,
Mhm.
going up and down
Stairs,
stairs are a
yeah.
little tricky.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I probably would still do it, but yeah, like you said, doing it at a time that's convenient for me
Right.
instead of like wishing, oh, here, all of a sudden it's
Yeah.
June and,
I
it's
want to go. And,
I don't want to
yeah.
blow my whole summer. So
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah, then summer surgeries are zero fun.
no, yeah. And I went through one summer, lost my whole summer with a broken leg, and that was not fun. I will always remember that. So yeah, try to schedule it. And I did have injections. I was getting ready to go to the Breeders' Challenge down at Fort Worth, and I had injections before that, which they helped, some. But then now I can't do surgery till probably December, maybe right before Christmas at the earliest. So I'll probably do it as soon as he thinks it's okay,
yeah.
and just
Yeah.
get it done, And I, like, a friend of mine had both hers done at once. No, that is not gonna happen to me. I could do both at once. And my doctor, he said he's not a fan of that. He said he prefers to do one and then do the next one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and Steve thought that sounded good too. He didn't.
Yeah. Otherwise he was going to have to be quite the nurse, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
and no, he's not a nurse. Oh. No, I'm not really looking forward to it, but I feel better doing this work now to get, because some things I'm real strong in, just writing in general makes you pretty strong. But then there was some that I was pretty weak in, really.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, for the most part, I mean, people that ride do have a lot of strength in a lot of muscles, but there are certain muscles that just don't get worked as much. And
Yeah, and I
so,
was kind of shocked on that. Like, I think my hamstring was real weak or something. I was really surprised that wow,
Right.
Yes.
And keeping your pelvis in neutral, that hamstring has to be strong so you don't get that forward tilt and it keeps you.
Yeah, and that's what she noticed about me that needed some work. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's kind of things you don't realize you're weak in, because maybe it's not hurting. And
yeah,
pretty good to have a program set up. And I would encourage anybody who is competing a lot, I don't care what age you are, to work with a physical therapist a little bit to know, okay, you are weak in this area, you need to work on this. And I know a lot of the girls that are running hard down the pro road have trainers, for that reason.
Yeah.
Because it's impossible to compete at a top level now unless you physically are there.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure.
And it definitely shows. I mean, out watching the Cowboy Channel and all that stuff, I mean, you can just tell that their horses and themselves body is just on a whole different level. So.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah.
a plan, when you're headed into a surgery like you are and everything else, and what's about to happen, I think just having somebody and having a plan and having confidence in that plan makes it go so much smoother and keeps you in such a better headspace, and knowing that, hey, again, we're going to get through this and this is how we're going to do it. And so I think that's just so important as well.
Well, and Dr. Sextro was glad, he knows Becky. And he said, oh, she's great. Because when I told him I was going to see her to do some pre-op rehab, he was happy about that, because he said that's pretty critical to be as far along as you can before surgery.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It'll set you up for the best outcome possible. You know, there's always a risk with surgery, but
yeah,
you know, if you can do your work going into it, you're gonna have the rewards coming out of it. And I think it, you know, like you were saying, Destry, it just, I think it helps reduce some of that anxiety with surgery as far as what to expect, and to like learning, you know, a lot of these exercises we started you on last week, you'll be doing some of those right away, even while you're still in the hospital. And so it takes a little bit of that anxiety away, and you know what to expect more.
Well, I know just from my horses, you know, my horses are happy, and if something does happen to them, they heal real fast. And just like people, you know, if you're positive and relaxed about things, you're going to heal a lot faster than somebody who's tense and worried. So,
And I don't think that's talked about enough, is, you know, just always keeping yourself in a good headspace, no matter what season of life you're in or what you're going through. Just having faith that it's going to all work out in the end. I mean, you'll get through it a lot.
well, that's why that first doctor I saw, I didn't even like him at all. No, you're not touching me. And some people would have felt like that was their only option, you know, and then you would have been dreading it. You wouldn't have liked him.
And if anything goes wrong, then you think it was his fault too.
Well,
You know,
probably
like,
was.
yeah. Well, and you have to, but you do have to like your doctor, like
You do.
really do.
Yeah.
And if you go and you do a consult with somebody and you don't get a good vibe from them, go find somebody else. There's enough doctors out there.
Yeah.
Like it, because you are putting your life in their hands when you go through surgery. And so you have to be confident in who you're seeing and their plan. Same with a vet. You have to be confident in your vet, in the plan that they have.
Yeah, exactly.
For your horse.
Exactly. Because, you know, that's a huge deal. Yeah.
And I think that, you know, with what Becky and I do, we think, I take it as such a huge responsibility to help you get to your goals. And, you know, you need to trust us, and then that you got to trust yourself, and it's okay if, you know, our plan doesn't fit you, to go find another one too. I mean, you have to believe in what you're doing. And again, it's just such a big responsibility to Becky and I to be able to be a part of that journey.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the knowledge that you both have and your dedication. You know, I've known both of you for a long time. So I just feel very blessed that we have you guys here.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't even know who I would have gone to, honestly. I mean, we do have a very good PT person, Norton. When I tore up my shoulder real bad, and I opted to not do surgery and do rehab. And he was very, very good. And that was fine for that. And he does know what I do, but he doesn't understand the whole thing of writing like you guys do, you know.
The passion, you know, like how much it means for a person to not be able to ride when we're so passionate about it, like it affects us. You know, when a healthcare professional says, well, you need to give up riding, you know, like
scratching them off like right now.
Exactly. You know, so I think we get the passion of it. And then, you know, like I evaled a gal last week that was showmanship or horsemanship and English equitation, but her back hurt so bad she couldn't sit deep in the saddle. And she'd been to a lot of other physical therapists and things like that, but they didn't understand how important that was for her to be able to get her butt down in the saddle and get her back pain minimized so she could do that. And, you know, when I'm like, I mean, she sent me a video and I'm like, oh, well, your back looks super stiff and you can't get your butt down. And she's like, exactly. And so I think it's because we have competed, we understand the passion of it.
Yes, the passion of it's huge. I mean,
and the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
What needs to happen to get
exactly. You have to have that.
Mhm, mhm.
Well, and I think just the application piece too, because I mean, I'm not going to claim that I know every muscle that works when you're riding, but if you can describe to me the movement, I can figure out something to help that movement. And it's just been an entire learning process being able to help other people with their riding. And, where we're at now in 5 years, we're going to be somewhere else, with
Mhm.
all people that we will get to work with and stuff like that. And I think again, the passion that we have for helping those people do what they're passionate about, and you don't realize how other muscles affect you in different places when you're riding. I mean,
Right.
how like you said, going and getting evaluation, figure out where your weak areas are, because even though you may not think that that area would even affect you when you ride, but because that area is not shored up, it'll start to leak out somewhere else, and then it will affect your riding. And so, keeping ahead of that stuff is important. And again, just strengthening muscles in a different area to help and stabilize another area, I just is something that people don't always think about.
Well, and had I had access to this, you know, 20, 30 years ago, I might not have had trouble with my hips.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, I think you cannot be too young to consult with, you
Yeah.
know, people to, oh, if this is really what you want to. So, it depends on how motivated you are and how passionate you are about it. Some people are a little, don't care, maybe I'm not going to keep writing or something like that,
Mhm,
but
mhm. Right.
I want to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are so appreciative of you coming and visiting with us and using our program. And I can't thank you enough for all that you do for the barrel racing in this region. And I don't think I have anything else. Destry, do you have anything? Or Deb, do you anything else you
No,
wish we would
I
have
just
talked?
really appreciate you guys a lot.
Yeah, and Deb, we love you too, and just appreciate all the hard work you put into your barrel races and care that you put into that. And we know that you're very passionate about growing the sport and barrel racing and competing yourself. And we're just so thankful to be a part of that journey. So I'll close it out and thank you all for listening. And as always, let your health be the pivot point to your success.